Good morning. I'm Leslie Smith and welcome to Business 110. This morning we're going to be talking about the legal and ethical issues in the business world. Before we get started, did anyone have a chance to watch the news this morning? The reason I'm asking is because there was a story on there about a lady that had her leg amputated at the hospital. And everything went fine, except when they came out of recovery, they realized that they had actually amputated the wrong leg. So of course she had to go back in and have the diseased leg amputated. And the thing I found most disturbing about it was the fact that she can't even sue them. Do you know why? Because she doesn't have a leg to stand on. Now, the reason I told you this silly story is because whenever you're dealing in the business world, you definitely want to make sure that when you're dealing with legal and ethical issues that you have very firm ground and strong legs to stand on. So what is this business law? Business law refers to the rules and regulations that governs the conduct of business. These are the laws that federal, state, and local governments have imposed for companies that they must abide by. The laws and regulations were established to protect the company, the employee, the employer, and the consumers. Laws can be civil or criminal. Civil laws are the rights and duties of an individual and organizations. They're enforced through court systems, individuals, or by organizations. The violations may result in fines, but no imprisonment. Criminal law, on the other hand, prohibits a specific kind of behavior or action. They are enforced by the state or the nation, and the violations may result in fines and or imprisonment. Business law encompasses a lot of different areas, anywhere from antitrust to work visas and everything in between. But ethics, on the other hand, is really more of a code of conduct. It's the difference between right and wrong. It's your moral compass. It's where there are no laws really that govern ethics, but you're actually held to a higher standard than what the laws are. The professional integrity is the cornerstone of many employees' credibility. It's your reputation. There are no fines or imprisonment, and the punishment typically for ethical violations is that you are shunned, maybe kicked out of a professional organization, have your license revoked, etc. In your mailbox, in your inbox, if everything went well, you should have a college code of ethics in your inbox, and I hope that you'll read it over and put some of those words of wisdom to use when you're deciding about your ethical standards. So ethical versus legal. Some actions are clearly ethical violations. Some violations are actually legal violations, and others aren't so clear. Just because it's unethical does not mean that it's illegal. And just because it's illegal, it probably is going to be unethical. But just because you have the right to do something doesn't mean that what you're doing is actually right. So when we look at some individual situations, we have Anna Michelle Niles. She's actually guilty of wire fraud. She was embezzling money from her company to the tune of about $433,000. She was wiring money into different checking accounts, using credit cards and other monies from the business, and using that for her personal expenses. So Anna Michelle, when she was found guilty, was sentenced to 20 years in prison, $250,000 fine, and 3 years of supervised probation. Purdue Pharma, on the other hand, is a giant pharmaceutical company owned by the Sackler family. They have been implicated in the opioid crisis. They knew that their drug was going to cause thousands of deaths and thousands of addictions. The Sackler family made billions and billions of dollars on the opioid crisis, and now they're being held responsible. The multi-billion-dollar settlement has thousands of cities covering 23 states and over 2,000 litigants. While for Purdue Pharma, the federal prosecutors aren't sure if there's actually been any crimes committed, but they have totally annihilated the ethics that were involved by grossly misrepresenting the risks of long-term use of drugs for the persons with chronic pain. Their profits they put above any corporate or social responsibility, as well as the health and safety of the public at large. Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family will not only be forced to into bankruptcy, but they will also have to pay the billions that they made to the victims of the opioid epidemic. And their family donations are now being rejected by nonprofits. Their family name was removed from institutions like MIT, and high society shuns them. The Houston Astros, they are a Major League Baseball team, and it was confirmed that they were guilty of sign stealing. Now, what that means is when you see the pitcher and the catcher doing their little signs, they were actually recording that, and then they broke the code so that they could tell all of their players what type of ball the pitcher was going to pitch. The Astros were telling their batters ahead of time, and the Astros actually went on to win the World Series. Now, that was the first World Series that they've ever won in the entire history of the franchise. Well, the Major League Baseball Association fined the Astros of the maximum of $5 million. They had to forfeit their first and second picks in the drafts. However, the general manager and the field manager were only suspended by the Major League Baseball League. But the Astros owner, Jim Crane, he actually fired them. Why? Because he said that neither of them had started this, but neither of them stopped it, and it marred his reputation. So in closing, again, I'd like you to know that while you may have the right to do something, it doesn't always make it the right thing to do. And whenever you are working in your business and ethical legal decisions, operating within the laws of the land and with the highest ethical standards possible will set you up for success and an outstanding reputation for years to come. Thank you, and I appreciate your time.